I'm Owen Bigland. This is the Inside Edge video blog. Okay, let's give you an update from the front lines on what's happening in the Vancouver market here as of July 2020. All I can say is what a difference, 3.5 months makes. If you've been watching my blog here for a while, I've been blogging about what's been going on with the COVID-19 lockdown and how that relates to Vancouver real estate. Just to recap, around mid-March, the market basically fell off a cliff. Vancouver Real Estate Board informed Realtors to really stop showing homes. And in my situation, I had blogged, I took pretty much all my listings off the market. I took 5 listings off in the third week in March, and put them back on the market in early May. I've been blogging about it because, of course, we went into a state of emergency. The real estate board banned open houses, really didn't want us showing homes, had to get COVID-19 waivers, liability waivers signed. Traffic and interest in homes dropped about 90%. So when traffic drops 90%, in my opinion, you have to be nuts to even be trying to sell a home in that kind of market. You're definitely not going to be getting top dollar for your house in those kind of conditions. But, of course, at the time, back in March and early April, all the vultures start coming out, the doom and gloomers come out of their basements, and I was blogging about some of these articles I was reading, how the day of reckoning is coming here. This is what's going to be the final straw that broke the camel's back for Vancouver real estate. Some of these guys, they've been on the sidelines for 20 years. The market just had not participated in their doom and gloom, and it continued to rise. But hey, now a pandemic that's killing hundreds of thousands of people, this might be our opportunity here that's going to finally put the Vancouver real estate market on its knees. And I said back then, let's just wait up. Let's hold up a minute. I don't get into short-term market predictions, as you guys know. I keep it the safe way by forgetting about short-term and focus on the long-term, which is really what real estate is all about anyways. Same thing in the stock market. Don't get into the trader or the speculator or the flippers game on what the market is going to do next week or the month after that or next spring. Just focus on what buying quality real estate and good quality dividend-paying investment stocks are going to do for you over the next 20, 30, or 40 years, and you're going to do incredible. So I don't get into the short-term game, but a lot of people like to get into that. I said, let's just wait. Let's give it 2 or 3 months. Sure, activity has fallen off a cliff, but so has inventory. Most realtors were like me and took the homes off the market. I had said back then that let's give it 3 months. I think the spring market will probably be pushed back into the summer. People were saying that, well, we're gonna go into a recession, millions of people unemployed, which is happening. But of course, I see the media picking up on what I was telling you guys 3 months ago. I said for Vancouver, detached homes on the Vancouver east side or west side or townhomes or condos downtown, the COVID-19 was not going to have much of an impact on this market for the simple reason that the buyers for these type of homes, a guy that's buying a $2 million Vancouver east side home or a $4 million west side home or even a $700,000 one-bedroom condo downtown, these people really aren't in that blast zone. The blast zone were, and I feel for these people, were people in the hospitality industry. They were hotel workers, restaurant workers, generally 9 to 5 paycheck type workers earning under $60,000 a year. They are in the blast zone. But the people that are buying condos and homes in Vancouver are earning 6 figures a year. So they generally were not all that affected. And now I see a bunch of articles recently in the Vancouver Sun and the Globe and Mail and Bloomberg saying that, yeah, turns out, buyers are back in droves now. Inventory has been going up, but sales have been keeping pace as well. Homes are selling quickly. The market's healthy. Buyers are back out there because those buyers, again, were not really affected all that much by the COVID-19. They're tech workers, they're doctors, they're lawyers, they're professionals. They're not 9 to 5 workers. Now, I had said in my blogs earlier this spring, it might have a bigger effect in places like the Fraser Valley where you can buy a one-bedroom condo for $250K. But that really isn't my market. As far as Vancouver goes, pretty insulated. But overall right now, as we're into July 2020, market is pretty healthy. And some people were tweeting me some of these doom and gloomers that are always out there. tweeting me some stuff from them, how they've changed their tune. A lot of them, of course, were calling for the day of reckoning back in March and April. But it's funny how now they've always got another excuse, a lot of these guys. Now it's a fear of missing out. Of course, it's always the interest rates. The bubble is still going to pop. Just stay on the sidelines. Just hold off. But, I've been pounding home here for so many years. Vancouver, let's talk about Vancouver here. It is, and let's not even go one step further. Let's talk about the downtown Vancouver condo market, 1 and 2 bedrooms. It's a pretty insulated market. I wouldn't call it bulletproof. You're always going to get pullbacks on any market. The downtown good quality 1 bedrooms can easily pull back 10 or 15% along the way. It's normal. But overall, they're pretty resilient. The reason being is A, it's in that affordability area. That $650,000, $700K 1 bedroom condo certainly beats renting. And I've done many blogs on that. The other thing is we're just not building anything here. We never have. It's a trickle-in supply. So there's always more buyers than there are sellers. Throw in 1.99% interest rates, throw in the capital gains tax exemption on the principal residence, and again, do the math that I tell people. Look at what renting for the next 20 years is going to cost you and what you're going to be left with, which is zero, and what saving that $100,000 down payment, because that's the big hurdle, getting the down payment, buying and staying in your principal residence for 20 years, and what that's going to do for you. There's no contest there. And I'm going to blog and do another blog here about an article that I saw in guess who did it? Bloomberg. A different writer this time. Remember the dust up I got in about Bloomberg 3 months ago on that horrible article that about the day of reckoning is coming and Vancouver City Hall is going bankrupt and get out now while you have the chance. Well, I just read an article and I posted it to my Twitter account. A pretty good article from a financial writer saying that buying your principal residence is still the best move financially for Canadians. And it is. Talk about night and day. 3 months ago, Bloomberg was telling you the sky's falling in, and now this guy is saying, yeah, you should be buying your principal residence. Renting is going to get you nowhere. Final thing I'll just talk about here, I want to keep it to a minute or two here. Often what happens, I remember this when I was during 9/11 in Manhattan. After 9/11 hit, people were saying that is the end of New York City. People are not going to feel safe living in Manhattan with a target on your back. Real estate is going to crash. People are going to get out of the city. Some people listened to it and probably sold. That didn't last long. It lasted a year or so, and Manhattan real estate took off again. I'm seeing the same thing here now, articles that I'm reading locally in Vancouver, but also in the States, about maybe people fleeing urban centers and going out to areas that are quieter and whatnot. No protests and that kind of thing. And don't fall for this, folks. I've heard this story many times before. You're seeing the thing now with the work from home. Office space isn't going to be needed anymore. Meanwhile, Vancouver's, coming online here, something like 4 million square feet of office space. We're in the early innings of an office boom here in Vancouver. I can tell you, though, most of that new office space, and again, it's millions of square feet coming on in the next 2 years, is already accounted for. Now, sure, some of that office space might be cut back a little bit, but don't buy that premise. I've got a lot of tech workers here that I work with. They still are going to want an office presence. And, if someone is thinking, what I would advise, if you don't want to be in a city like Vancouver, sure, it's hustle and bustle, it's noise, but there's also so many advantages to living in downtown Vancouver. It's not for everyone, though. But if you want to be able to walk to work and don't have that 2 hour or an hour and a half commute and everything at your doorstep, it's great. It's not for everyone. But if someone decides, hey, honey, maybe we should sell our 2-bedroom Yaletown condo and buy a townhouse out in Langley. If you want to go that route, by all means do. But what I would suggest you do is test it out. Go rent a place out in Langley for a year and then see before you buy. Because over the last decade or so, I've had clients that have sold out of the city, and I've had people that have called me and said, we sold out of the city years ago. We've been living out in the Fraser Valley, and now we want to come back into the city. So be careful with that. I think the calling of the demise of urban centers, both in Canada and the United States, is greatly over embellished here. Living in urban centers still has a whole lot going for it. One of the biggest things is the lifestyle. Again, it's not for everyone. But people got pretty fed up with spending 3-4 hours in their car commuting. Living downtown has been proven in an urban center is in most cases, a lot healthier environment. You're walking a lot more, you're not in traffic, less stress, walk to work, walk to the restaurants or whatever. So I think you'll see this always flares up when things like the protests we've recently had and the COVID, that there's going to be a flight outside of the big cities like San Francisco and the offices are going to close down. And I would advise people to be really careful with that. These usually flare up for a year or so, and a few people, do move. But if that's you, do the smart thing, rent for a year and see how you like it before you commit to it. I'm Owen Bigland. As always, see you next week.